Who is Karen Horney? Karen Horney was a German psychologist born in 1885, and she studied first at the University of Freiburg, then at the University of Göttingen, and finally at the University of Berlin, where she met her husband, and they were later married in 1910. Throughout this time, Horney focused on feminine psychology. She could be best described as a neo-Freudian, as many of her works were an extension of Freud's theories on psychoanalysis. After graduating, she spent 12 years teaching at the Berlin Psychoanalytic Institute before divorcing her husband and moving to the United States to be Associate Director of the Chicago Institute for Psychology. Horney also spent time in Brooklyn, lecturing at both the New School for Social Research and the New York Psychoanalytic Institute, where her individual beliefs caused her to be fired. After this, she founded the American Institute for Psychoanalysis with other like-minded individuals and focused her role as dean on furthering research. She later died in 1952 with many impressive accomplishments left behind to the world of psychology to both inspire and help others. Contribution to psychology. During her career as a psychologist, Horney formed the Neo-Freudian discipline. Alfred Adler and Horney formed this discipline together due to similar beliefs on Freud's work. They both say personality is shaped by a wider range of factors, such as social relationships in early environments and possible innate factors. In addition to Freud's simplistic views of Horney formed the Neo-Freudian discipline. Alfred Adler and Horney formed this discipline due to similar views on Freud's work. They both say personality is shaped by a wider range of factors, such as social relationships in early environments and possible innate factors, in addition to Freud's simplistic views of just anger and aggression. They also noted that it is not just repressed unconscious desires from the mind that can change one's personality, but also conscious desires, including those which are acted upon. Horney is famously a feminine psychologist. One example of a small yet important shift she caused was through her critique of Freud's penis envy. Horney admitted that penis envy was something that occurred amongst women. However, she added that womb envy, as she named it, was equally present in society. She went on to suggest that the possibility that the reason men were so driven for success was part of finding a mate and making up for the fact that men alone do not have the capacity to birth and nurture a child in the same way that women do. On other matters, she argued that where psychologists such as Freud, but also many others, had attempted to describe female beliefs and personality types, they were false. Horney recognized that these psychologists were male, and whilst they may be able to observe common behavioral patterns, they were not able to see the bigger picture and the more complex mannerisms and thought processes that went on in the mind of women. Despite her impressive role in forming the Neo-Freudian discipline, Horney saw narcissism in a very different manner to Freud and other psychologists who focused their research on narcissism. Instead of viewing narcissism as an inherited personality trait like most psychologists of this era, Horney saw that it was actually development in the early stages of life, and that the environment of a person during this time has the ability to shape this trait. In terms of defensive strategies, Horney proposed that instead of the previously believed cause being deprivation, they were actually a result of indulgence. She highlighted the difference between self-idealization and narcissism. Due to the nature of narcissists, they have a weak self-esteem, whereas those who were self-idealizing had a stronger self-esteem, as they had more meaningful achievements and so were more confident and content within themselves. Horney researched coping strategies and found that her 10 neurotic needs, as shown, could be simplified into 3 definitive categories of compliance, aggression, and withdrawal. Compliance could be defined as a need for affection and admiration. Those needs under aggression follow the expansive solution, and withdrawal lent towards a need for self-sufficiency and autonomy.
Why do we consider Karen Horney to be a good example of diversity? Karen Horney was the catalyst in creating an entirely new approach towards feminine psychology. Horney was always ready to voice her opinions and openly disagreed with Freud and his views on female psychology. She rejected his concept of penis envy, declaring it both demeaning towards women and very inaccurate. Within her theory of neurosis, she highlights the importance of culture. Freud believed that many neuroses had a completely biological base. Horney suggested that it was essential to look at the culture a person was born into in order to fully understand neuroses. Culture is different for everyone and completely varies across class and integrates perfectly with diversity. Horney helped influence more interest in the psychology of women. She also demonstrated that what was once completely impossible for women can now be achieved. Horney helped bring men and women together within the field of psychology. She managed to be a psychologist in a time where women were inferior and their contributions were overlooked and ignored by men. How hard was it to find information on Karen Horney? It was not as difficult as one may assume. Karen Horney has been credited in multiple journals and all over the internet for her psychological contributions. She is often referenced as a pioneer of female psychology. Her fascinating life story, alongside her accomplishments, have been told by many admirers and various newer psychologists. Horney has been acknowledged for her theory of neurotic needs and neo-Freudian psychology. She continues to be recognized as a turning point in female psychology. Who contributed to what? The slides were split evenly. Gabriella was in charge of slides 1 to 5, and I was in charge of slides 6 to 11. We equally shared the voiceover and the script. Thank you so much for listening.